Hello everybody, how's it going? Ben Gothard here, founder and CEO of Gothard Enterprises, author of CEO at 20, a little book for big dreams, and welcome to the fourth video in the How to Build a Content Empire series. Now, if you've been sticking with us so far, you know that we've talked about the importance of keeping content in-house, an overview of the content creation process. We also talked about why it's so important to align your purpose with your content creation. So today, what we're going to be talking about is understanding your audience at a fundamental level. Right? Now, what does this mean and why is it important? Well, when you're creating content, you need to be creating that content with somebody in mind. You need to have your audience in mind, the people who are going to be seeing your content, consuming your content. If you don't have them in mind, it's going to be too generic and it's not going to be specific enough for your audience to be able to take action, right? Because that's what you want them to do. You either want them to buy your product, be more associated with your brand, join your email list, so on and so forth. If you're not engaging them and they don't have a reason to take that call to action, to take the next step with your business, they're not going to. So in order to give them that reason, you need to really understand who they are as people. And when you're creating content and building your content empire, you need to have your audience in mind the entire time. So let's jump in and get way more specific on your target market. Awesome.
Alright, so in this video, I want to talk about who your audience is. What is your target market? Who is your target audience? And how does this all relate to content creation? And I want to do that by first identifying what a target market is. What is it? What is an audience? What is an ideal customer? What are all these things? What do they mean? Then I want to go into talking about why these things are so important to understand, why it's important to have a target market, why it's important to understand who your audience is, and why it is so crucial that you have an ideal customer. And then once we've talked about what it is and why it's so important, I want to talk about how to, once we've identified what it is and why it's so important, I then want to go into how you can identify it and how you can make it work for you. So let's jump right in. First is, what is a target market? What is a target market? Well, simply put, your target market is the group of people who collectively come together to make up your buyers. They are your potential customers. They are the people who resonate with your brand, with your purpose. They are the people who like you. They are your followers, your subscribers, and they're your community members. And most importantly, they are your target market is a group of people who collectively make up your ideal customer. Okay, let me explain. So you're a business, and in order to run your business, in order to be successful as a business, you need customers. Now, those customers that you have, they're going to be similar in some ways, most of the time. Let's say, for example, that you are an author and you are writing children's books. Well, your market, your target market, are children. Your target audience are the kids that want to hear your stories. Your potential customers are the parents of those kids, the people who can vote for you with their wallets. Now, different types of companies have different types of target markets. Some target markets, some target audiences are more broad than others. Some are more specific than others. It really depends on your industry. But at a fundamental level, your target market, what is a target market? It is the people, it is a group of people that collectively make up who you're trying to sell to. And as a business, you need to make money. You need to have customers. And when you understand at a fundamental level your target market, who it is that you're selling to, then you can sell to them more effectively. And I'm going to talk about why a target market is so important in a little bit, because I really want you to understand what a target market is. Because when a lot of people first start out in business, or they first start selling a new product for the first time, they typically think, okay, my product can be used by everyone. And everyone needs to use my product, and I don't care who it is, they're going to benefit from my product. And you know what? You might be right. There might be there might be a need for your product on a global level. But if you don't start off by targeting the people who are easiest for you to sell to, then you're probably not going to reach a global level, because you're not going to have any customers. Somebody who says that they sell to everybody is probably selling to no one, because if you've sold to somebody, then you know for a fact that a certain type of person or a certain group of people is more interested than any other group of people. And that comes through experience, that comes through making sales, getting out in the field. And the target market is your way of identifying who those people are. Now, there's a principle in business, and it's called the low-hanging fruit principle. And this principle simply states that there are easier and there are more difficult things to go after. This can be applied to goal setting. There are easier goals to reach than others. This can be applied to your personal life, and as far as relationships, there are people who you could probably start dating a lot easier than other people. But as it relates to business, the low-hanging fruit principle simply states that there are customers who will be easier for you to make the sale on than others. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you sell very high-end suits, and there are 10 men in a room that you want to sell these suits to. Half the men are millionaires and have tons of money, and half of the men are basically living in poverty. Now, if you had to say who you wanted to go sell to, you would probably say the millionaires, because they are more fit applicants, they're more fit prospects to buy your product. They are, in this particular instance, your target market. Now, why do I break it down to that simple of an example? Well, because it's important to understand what a target market is. Okay, you do have some different products that can be used by everybody. Okay, social media marketing, for example. So anybody can do social media marketing. Everybody should do social media marketing. If you own a business, you should absolutely be on social media. But there are some businesses that it is easier to be on social media for than others. Let's say, for example, that your business is a photography business and you take tons and tons of pictures. Well, it's going to be easier for you to post content online because naturally you're creating content. So social media marketing for you, it makes more sense. The same principle applies to customers buying a product or service. For some customers, it makes a lot more sense to buy your product as opposed to not buying your product. So a target market at its core is a collective summation of the different adjectives, the different describing factors, the different qualities of your customers. Now, again, a target market can be people who your message, your purpose resonates with. That could be who is most likely going to buy from you. It could be people who like you. It could be your followers on social media. It could be your subscribers on an email list. It could be anybody. You don't know unless you look into it, unless you do the research, unless you get out in the field. Okay? So what is a target market? A target market is a collective group of people who are most likely or more likely than any other group of people to buy what you're selling, to buy your good or service. Now, as I said before, different companies and different business models and different products and different services are going to have different target markets. And I want to give you some examples. Facebook, for example, is targeting every human being on Earth. Walmart is targeting almost every human being on Earth. They're targeting massive amounts of people because what they offer appeals to a massive quantity of individuals. Everybody can have a Facebook. There's no discrimination. There's no one person is more or less fit to have a Facebook than any other person. That's just how Facebook's business model is. That's what their business model allows them to do. It allows them to target everybody on the planet, and that's exactly what Facebook is doing. Walmart, they sell an enormous amount of goods. They sell to an enormous amount of people. However, even these gargantuans, these massive businesses, and they are both multi-billion-dollar businesses, they still can probably tell you who their target market is, who their ideal customer is. Facebook, their target market is probably anybody with an internet connection and a device that can go onto their platform. Is that a very broad market? Absolutely. Facebook has billions of monthly active users. What about Walmart? Well, they're targeting people who want to save money on lower to medium quality goods. That is a ton of people. Now, does Walmart really appeal to somebody who's a billionaire? No, probably not. They probably don't want to shop from Walmart. But there are just not that many billionaires in the world. There are a ton more regular people with normal budgets who are more than happy to save money by going to Walmart. And that's their business model, and that's what they've done. They have allowed themselves to have their target market to be as expansive as it is. Now, let's talk about a company like Snapchat. They have a couple of 100 million, monthly active users. However, their target market is predominantly younger people. They target predominantly young people. In fact, their biggest target demographic includes people that are between the ages of 13 and 21. Now, sure, they have plenty of 20-year-olds. I'm sure they also have plenty of 30-year-olds. But their target market, who Snapchat appeals to the most, are the younger people. Snapchat appeals to the younger people more, and that is their target market. And because they know that, they're a lot more effective at marketing to them. Now, Snapchat targets younger people. Facebook targets most everybody. Would Snapchat deny somebody who is 67 years old and wants to use their platform? Absolutely not. But when they spend money on advertising, they are going to target the people who are most likely to buy or download to download their app, to consume their product. It makes sense. So another example is the video game industry. Most people who play video games are not going to be retirees. They're not going to be they're not going to be included in the target market for people who play video games. Now, obviously, the video game creators, the people who sell video games, so people like Target sell companies like Target sell video games, companies like Walmart sell video games, companies like companies like Infinity Ward create games, companies like Activision, Blizzard, I know there's some overlap. Companies like Sony that create the systems, Microsoft that creates Xbox. There are plenty and plenty of people selling in the video game industry, trying to sell. And they will absolutely not be spending their marketing dollars trying to get older people to play. At least at this stage of society in America, people who are older, and I'm saying people who are retired or of retirement age, 65 plus, generally they do not play as many video games as people who are 35 and under, 40 and under. Now, there will always be exceptions, but a target market is taking the average of your customers, finding similarities that are most predominantly seen in your group of customers, and your target market is putting them into a group that you can label, you can understand, you can gather information on, and you can market to. So companies like Snapchat, companies that sell video games or items related to video games, they're going to be targeting younger people. Now let's talk about a company like LinkedIn. Their demographic, their target market, is going to be professional people. And they're not as concerned with age as Snapchat, because they want professionals. And there are young professionals, and there are older professionals. And because LinkedIn functions as an online resume, to some extent, there are other features of LinkedIn, but one of the most attractive features is an online resume. They're going to attract a certain kind of people. There are some people who are professionals, and they want to keep their online resume, their online identity, very, very business-oriented. They are constantly on the grind. They constantly want to make deals. So they need to have their business information updated. They're professionals. And that is the market that LinkedIn is going after. And they're doing a very good job of it. See, if LinkedIn tried to target, let's say, retirees, they probably would not find much success because retirees do not care as much about having their resumes updated, besides for some bragging rights, which they're completely entitled to. But they're probably not going to be as concerned with keeping it up to date. Whereas a young professional coming out of college is absolutely going to want to leverage LinkedIn in order to find jobs, in order to find partners with which to start businesses, in order to become more well known in the professional business community. So the target market for LinkedIn is going to be a lot different than the target market for Snapchat. And by understanding the difference between these two, you will understand what a target market is. So, LinkedIn professionals not as concerned about age until it gets to about the retirement age, and anything below, I would say, maybe sophomore or junior year for high school. Between those two ages, between, let's say, 15 or 16 and 65, that is exactly where LinkedIn wants to be, because those people need to have their resumes, most of those people in that age range need to have their resumes up to date and accurate, and LinkedIn knows that people in that category, that target market, are more likely going to use their service, more likely going to consume their app than anybody else. So LinkedIn knows they want professionals. Snapchat knows they want young people. Facebook knows that they want all people with Wi-Fi. So when you are applying this to your business, think about who it is that you serve. Who is your customer? And I say who because a target market is a reflection of your ideal customer. And when you have an ideal customer in mind, it makes your marketing efforts a lot more effective. When you can narrow down your target audience to the ideal customer and craft a marketing message that is tuned specifically to one individual, you are going to be more effective. So, what is a target market? It is a collection of potential customers, your buyers, that you want to spend your marketing dollars to reach. Different companies have different target markets, and it's important to understand who you are as a business, what you are as a business, why you're doing business the way you are. And as a result of understanding your business, you will then have a much better grasp of who your target market is, of what your market is, what market you're dealing with, what market you're in, what's the competition in that market, who else is grabbing up the people in your market. Because you're selling to people. So you need to know who those people are that you're selling to. Now, I'd say at a macro level, it's important to understand the difference between B2B, business to business, and B2C, business to customer or business to consumer. They're the same thing. B2B businesses target other businesses. Their job is to help their client businesses do something, whether it be marketing, whether it be sales, whether it be administrative tasks, financial tasks, anything that one business can help another business do is a B2B activity. And when your company is a B2B, a business to business type of company, then your target market is exclusively other businesses. So let's say, for example, that your company is an accounting firm and you help small businesses get their books in order, you do bookkeeping, you help them file taxes, you help them save money. You are performing a service for another business. You are a business-to-business company. You do not need to go out and market yourself to customers, to consumers. You don't need to market yourself to the public. You need to market yourself strategically to businesses, to business owners, to people in the business who have the decision-making power to invest in your product or service, to invest in your service if you're an accounting company. And so when you are going after other businesses, you need to think about where they're going to be. Who are the people that are going to be making these decisions? So it needs to be a lot more targeted, and it needs to be a lot more purposeful and intentional. The people that your marketing efforts need to be a lot more intentional about who you're going after. And when you understand what your target market is and who your target market consists of, then you will be able to target other businesses more effectively. Now, that's B2B. You're targeting other businesses. Your target market consists of the people who have the power in businesses to bring you on as a service provider. That's B2B. Now, B2C, business to customer or business to consumer, is more geared towards reaching the general public. Now, Facebook, they are a B2C company. They are making their platform available to enormous amounts of people. And people are the ones that use Facebook. However, that is only part of their business model. Another very crucial part is the advertising section, where Facebook allows marketers to come in and market to the people on their platform. So in that regard, Facebook is a B2B, because they want businesses to come onto their platform and they want businesses to buy advertising space. So in some regards, Facebook is a B2B, and in some regards, Facebook is a B2C. But back to B2C. When I think of a typical B2C, business to consumer, I think of a company like Office Depot, or a company like a snowball stand. And I want to move more towards a snowball stand, because Office Depot, there's some ambiguity. Yes, Office Depot is a storefront and sells tons of product to normal consumers that walk into the store, but a lot of businesses buy in bulk from Office Depot, and they're going to buy supplies for the office, so that wasn't the best example of strictly B2C. That's an example of, again, similar to Facebook, both a B2B and a B2C. Now, a snowball stand is going to predominantly sell to individuals. They want to sell to people who come with their families and enjoy snowballs or snow cones, to those of you who aren't in the South. Now, B2C companies like a snowball stand are going to be marketing to the general public. They need to be intentional about who they market to as far as the specific types of people who like snowballs or snow cones. Some people like sweets. Some people try to eat healthy and they don't want sweets. So the people who own the snowball stands need to market to people who like sweets, people who like iced beverages, people who like yogurt, people who like ice cream. They need to target people who are going to be a fan of snowballs, who are going to be buyers of snow cones. And so I trust that you can see the difference between B2B and B2C. Now, the reason I've been spending so much time talking about this is because it so heavily dictates what your target market is and who your target market consists of. If you're B2B, it's going to be potentially business owners or high-level executives or managers who have the power to make purchasing decisions on behalf of a business, but you're going to be targeting other businesses. Whereas B2C, you're going to be targeting individuals. You're going to be targeting the mass public. Now, back to the snowball example, you could make the argument that a company will hire on a snowball stand to do private catering for a party. For that specific example, you're absolutely right. A snowball stand is a B2B. In that specific example, in regards to that one case. However, it is predominantly a B2C sort of company. It is a business to consumer company. And when you are applying these principles to your own business, you need to be thinking about where does the bulk of your business come from? Do you sell to businesses? Are you a marketing company that helps other businesses market? Or do you sell to consumers? Are you a marketing company that sells products to individuals to help them market themselves more efficiently, effectively? Are you an author who wants to sell books to individuals to spread your message? Are you somebody who sells, let's say, sunglasses, and your target market consists of people, individuals, consumers who need sunglasses? It really depends on what your business model is and how you intend to make money. But regardless of how you do it, it is important that you understand how you do it and that you are putting your efforts into finding the customers that make the most sense for you to find. That is your target market. If an accounting firm that worked strictly with businesses and very high-profile clients, high-profile businesses, if they were to start marketing to the general public, to the school teachers, to the people who work jobs, to the people who are running the snowball stands, who are actually dishing out the snowballs, those kinds of people are not going to be able to afford that company's fee because they probably charge a pretty monstrous fee. And they have every right to because they sell to humongous businesses. And so they're going to have a very specific market. They're going to have a niche market. And when I say the word niche, I just mean a very specific slice of the market. For example, let's say you're an attorney. Depending on what kind of attorney you are, you're either B2B or B2C. For example, if you are a personal injury attorney, then you are going to be selling your services to consumers, to individuals who have been in a car accident, or individuals who have been wronged by a physician, or individuals who got hurt in an accident somehow. Regardless of the situation, you're going to be helping individual consumers. Whereas if you are a telecommunications attorney, then you are going to be contracted out, and you're going to be hired by other businesses. You're going to be hired by businesses who need your skills. Now, the example of personal injury and the example of telecommunications is a very good distinction between different types of lawyers, between lawyers who target different markets, different niches. And if the personal injury attorney were to try to target businesses, they would not find that they got any clients unless they made a deal with some business that anybody who the business referred to them, they got some sort of commission. That could be a smart marketing ploy, and at that point they would be reaching out to other businesses in order to find individual clients. But for the most part, if personal injury lawyers try to market themselves to other businesses, they would not be successful. Just as unsuccessful as if a telecommunications attorney, if they tried to market themselves to the general public, to consumers. Most people do not even know what telecommunications are. Most people do not have a need for an attorney who can help resolve an issue between AT&T and a different service provider who is trying to lay down a network of cables to start providing service. The general consumers, general public, is just not part of the target market for the telecommunications attorney. And so again, you see the distinction. One type of attorney targets consumers. One type of attorney targets businesses. They are both in the legal market. They're both attorneys, but they both target different niches within the bigger marketplace. And so they will not, typically not be competing. And it's important to understand not only who you need to sell to, but it is important to understand who it is that is also selling to those people or those businesses. In other words, you need to understand your competitors. Because, well, actually, there are a few reasons why. One, they may be doing things that you did not think of. And if they're doing that, then you need to catch up or do something different and better than them. But also, when you see who your competitors are targeting, they might be targeting a section of the market that you have no interest in. For example, if you are selling suits, business suits, and I'm going to go back to this example. I know we talked about it earlier, but if you're selling suits, and let's actually use the exact same example as earlier. If you sell very high-end suits, then you wanted to target the 5 people in the room who were millionaires, because they have the money to afford your suit, and they probably have a bigger need for your suit because they're going to be in situations that require them to be wearing suits of your quality on a much more frequent basis than the people living in almost poverty. Now, if there was another seller of suits who came to that exact same room, they might be the bottom of the barrel suit. They might be the brand that is meant for people who are nearing the poverty line. They might be meant to help out people who can't necessarily afford other suits but still need to look sharp for an interview or still need to look nice on the job. And that might be their market. So just because you sell the same thing, you're both selling suits, does not always mean that you're going to have the same market. And so it is important to understand who your perceived competition is selling to, because they may not even be selling to the same market as you. And in fact, when you find out information like that, not only can you use that to your advantage in the fact that you know you don't have to compete with them anymore, but you can actually start to work together in order to get the market, in order to corner your section of the market. Instead of trying to go into a market with a ton of competition, where you have enormous players with enormous budgets who are taking up most of your target market, it would be wise to instead find a market that does not have much competition. Find a market that is largely untapped. So when you understand what a target market is, you know how to go in and apply that knowledge to your benefit. So, so now that you understand what a target market is, and you know the importance of understanding fundamentally what a target market is, I want to talk about why a target market is important. Now, if you notice on the video, I've created a graphic for you to explain in a picture why a target market and understanding that target market is important. Basically, you want to assemble and attract a community of paying customers to your brand. Now, I want to give you not an anecdote, but another example of target market and being aware of who that target market is and why it's so important. I created this graphic, and as you can see, my graphic design skills are rudimentary, but it gets the image across. However, my knowledge of target markets and content creation is a lot more developed. And I understand that. I've put more time into learning about and getting experience in marketing, and more specifically on how to attract a community of buyers, paying customers around your brand, hence the picture. Now, I know that my market that I'm trying to appeal to with my words and my ideas, I'm not trying to appeal to a market that needs a graphic designer. I'm not trying to reach that market. And I'll tell you why. It's because I understand that I'm not a graphic designer. That is not my strength. That is not who I am. So I'm not going to look for customers who are in need of a graphic designer. That would not do me any good. But I do want to craft my message for people who need paying customers. And so by understanding who my target market is, I'm able to craft again, craft my message specifically for that group of people, specifically for you. And because I know my market, I know what information is more valuable to that market. So, because I know about my market, because I understand who my target market is, I can more effectively communicate. I can more effectively reach those kinds of people. If I was trying to attract people who needed business consulting and needed marketing help and needed a graphic designer and needed this and needed that, that would not be an efficient or an effective use of my resources. I only have so much time. I can only produce so much content. So why would I spend my time trying to provide a little bit of value to a lot of people when I can instead invest my time heavily in one market and provide massive amounts of value to one specific group of people? Now, apply this to your own business. If you know that your product or your service can help a ton of people, identify who those people are. Identify exactly why they need your product or service. And identify the people who you can most easily sell your product or service to. Now, those people that you just thought of, they are a foundation for your target market. Now, why do I not say that they're your target market? Well, as I'm going to talk about a little bit later, identifying your target market is not an easy thing to do. In fact, it's a very difficult thing to do, one that has a lot of moving parts and a lot of different variables to it. But what I want you to understand is why a target market is so important. And at a fundamental level, understanding your target market is important because it helps you craft your message. You can talk the language of your audience. Somebody who is a fan of investing, is very financially minded, is not going to find this video as helpful as a marketer or a business owner who is looking for clients, a marketer who's trying to figure out how to get clients for their customers, how to find customers themselves. And so by understanding who your target market is, you can craft your message precisely for them. You can put yourself on platforms that will reach precisely them. And when you know your market, you are giving yourself a ton of advantages. Okay, what are those advantages? Well, the first is precision. When you understand your target market and you fundamentally have that group of people pegged, or businesses pegged, and you understand and you have a target market, then you will be a lot more precise with your marketing efforts. You can reach them a lot more easily. Now, what does this mean for you financially? What does this mean for your bottom line? This means that it's going to take a lot less money. This means that on an individual basis, you're going to have lower cost of customer acquisition. You're going to have a better conversion rate. And let me break those two down. When I say lower cost per customer acquisition, let's say it takes you $5 on average to pick up a new customer. If you know who your target market is, and you can more precisely target those types of people. Now, not everybody's going to be your customer, and if they are, congratulations, you're doing an amazing job. But the majority of the time, not everybody's going to be your customer, and not everybody in your target market is going to be your customer. But the people that are going to be your customers, you can acquire them for a lot less of an outflow of cash. You don't have to pay as much in order to acquire a customer because it is a lot more precise. You are targeting people specifically, and you know that they need what you have to offer. So you don't have to spend as much time reaching more people. You can precisely target fewer people and have better results. You can have a lower cost per customer acquisition. Instead of it costing you $5 to get a customer, it can cost you $2.50. Instead of it costing you $50 to find a customer, it can cost you $37. Whatever that metric may be, and it's going to be different from business to business, and you need to understand your metrics as a business. Whatever those metrics may be, you will have a better result if you understand your target market. And that is part of why it is so important to understand. Now, that's a lower cost. It is also a better conversion rate. And what do I mean by that? Let's say that before you understood a target market, you reached out to 100 people and tried to sell them your product. Let's say one, if any, people bought. That's lucky. That's a 1% conversion rate. 1 out of 100, that's 0.01, that's 1%. You got lucky. Most people, most businesses on their websites, and I'll give you retail for example, have a conversion rate of 3.6%. For every 100 customers they send to their website, 3.6 people buy. That is an industry high. That is an outperformer of the industry. Some of the best websites have that sort of conversion rate. They got that conversion rate because they understand who it is that they're selling to. And so when they can bring in fewer people to make the same amount of sales, then they are essentially saving money. They have lower costs because they have a better conversion rate. So, whereas it'll take you at your 1%, 300 people in order to sell to 3, to find 3 customers. It will only take somebody with a 3.6 conversion rate, or it'll take them less than 100 people to get that same amount, that same result, the same amount of customers. And so when you have a better conversion rate, you don't have to find as many prospects, because the prospects that you do find are converting to customers more often. So why is it so important to know your target market? Why is the target market important? It allows you to craft your message. It allows you to know your market. It gives you precision with your marketing. It grants you a lower cost and a better conversion rate. And part of crafting your message is that you're going to have more effective marketing. The people are going to resonate with your message better. They're going to convert at a higher percent. All around, you're going to have more effective marketing. Now, I want to paint a mental picture for you. If you were going fishing and you decided to bring your own device for catching fish, what sort of device would you rather? Would you rather a net that you have to cast out very wide and potentially catch fish, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of resources, a lot of time to cast out that net, let it settle, and then pull it back in? Or would you prefer a fishing pole where you can cast it exactly where you want? You can very quickly test that area, and if there's no fish, you can move on. Which would you prefer? For some businesses, the wide net approach works. For businesses like Facebook, for businesses like Walmart, they just need to capture enormous amounts of people. So they're going to cast out a net far and wide, as big of a net as they can find, in hopes of catching as many fish as they possibly can. And they don't care what kind of fish, they don't care what they catch, they just want to catch a lot. However, for most businesses, I won't say most, but for other businesses, you need a specific type of customer. For example, if you're a consultant and you're charging $5,000 as a consulting fee, there are only so many customers that can afford a $5,000 consulting fee. So you want to take your fishing pole, you want to identify that spot in the river or that spot in the bayou where the fish that you're looking for, the customers that you're looking for, are. And you want to throw your line, your bait, right in the middle of it. And you want to throw it precisely in the best location. That is knowing your target market. Your target market is a very specific type of customer, and in this analogy of fish, they respond to a very specific message. In this analogy, the type of bait that you use, whether you use shrimp or croaker or plastic, and they respond to a very certain type of hook in the analogy, or a lead magnet, if you will, in business. So let's say that your customers are business owners who are selling products over the internet. They're in e-commerce. Well, those people are predominantly going to be folks who are very entrepreneurial minded. They don't want to work for somebody else. That's why they're selling their own products. They don't want to be told, given content. They don't want to be provided information on how they can get along with other employees better, because they're not an employee. It doesn't fit them. That message is not meant for them. They do not have ears to listen to that. But if you offer them a free ebook on the 10 best ways to get more customers onto your e-commerce website, they're going to be a lot more interested in reading that piece of content and consuming that content and taking that hook. Whereas the employee of the company probably does not care about how to run their own website. They probably don't care about how to get more online customers to their online store. That is not relevant to them. So why is a target market important? Because you can be relevant to your market. You can be targeting the people that you need to target. You can be talking to the people that are talking the same language as you. You can have lower costs, better conversions, more effective marketing. Now, just to give you real-life examples. I want to talk about a few different companies who really understood the importance of a target market. And I want to start with a bit of history. There's a magazine called 17, and back in the 1950s, the magazine had a very specific target persona. They had a very specific target market. They created a fictitious character named Tina based on survey data from teenage girls and their mothers during the mid-1940s. And they described Tina as the following. Tina, the high school girl, has a peck of problems. She's what older folks call an awkward adolescent. Too tall, too plump, too shy, a little too much of a lot of little things. But they're big things to Tina. And though she doesn't always take her troubles to her mother, Tina writes her favorite magazine for the tip-off on the clothes she wears, the food she eats, the lipstick she wields, the room she bunks in, the budget she keeps, and the boy she has a crush on. Now, 17, as a business, has gone through many adaptations of who their target market is, comprised of. And this example is specifically who they were targeting in the 1950s. But if you look at the magazine itself, you can see how that persona manifested itself. You can see that they have a strong focus on Tina's insecurities and hang-ups. For instance, they have content like diet with ice cream, boy-girl issues, dates, and how to get them. Now, these are all things that high school girls are insecure about, and 17 channeled exactly what was going on in high school girls' minds to power their content strategy. So they understood who their target market was. They understood who they were trying to reach, and they understood the language that they were trying to talk to them in. And because of that, they were very successful at understanding their target market and making more money. Okay, it's one example. But what about modern examples? Is this still in effect today? Is this still relevant today? Absolutely. Let's take Apple, for example. Apple is known for their outstanding marketing campaigns. They're some of the most effective marketers in history. Now, typically, Apple seemed to be more geared towards consumers, towards consumer marketing. However, with one specific product, one specific ad, Apple has refocused some of their marketing efforts to a new segment, a segment of business professionals who want to use devices, their Apple devices, in order to make their job more effective and efficient. So, for the iPad 2, Apple targeted those professionals. The ads that they showed for this specific product had the iPad shows the user looking at stock options, investment portfolios, and even images of different professional ventures, like a PowerPoint that's an elevator pitch, or different professional things. Now, that is uncharacteristic of Apple. It really is a far cry from someone taking videos of their family or jamming out to their iTunes library. And this specific commercial, specific advertisement, is a lot more aligned with professionals, their work routine, what they do on a daily basis, and what that might look like. Therefore, it helps the business professional see how this Apple product will fit into their professional lives. So Apple understands who their target market is, consumers. But for this one specific product, they want to target professionals. And because they understand their target market, they can build a content strategy around that. They know how to put out great content, and so they're going to target specific people with specific pieces of content. Now, if you think about where Apple might market that, do you think that they would take that specific example of an advertisement and then you think they would put that on Snapchat or LinkedIn? Knowing what you know now, based on the information that I've provided you in this video so far, the smart bet would be that Apple would put that ad on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a professional platform, so professionals are going to be there. So if Apple's trying to target professionals, they want to go to LinkedIn because that's where professionals are. And it's important to understand your target market, because if you don't understand that, you don't know where to go to find your customers. You don't know where to go to make sales. I want to keep going with another example. I want to talk about MySpace. Now, after its peak in 2008, MySpace had a decline. It was bought and sold a few times. And MySpace is making a little bit of a comeback. But in order to do so, they had to completely change their target market. And before, they marketed to people of all ages who wanted to stay connected on social networks. Clearly, Facebook beat them. And Facebook is a lot better at that than MySpace was. But MySpace has started to redo their strategy. And they started with a new market. That market is the music market. MySpace is targeting musicians. Now, a lot of musicians got their start by posting their songs on MySpace. So, with a strategy, and I'm talking about back when MySpace was popular. Now, with a strategy, a marketing strategy of MySpace that gives musicians a better tool to market themselves, now MySpace has a function again. And now that they have redesigned their features, they have listen now call to actions. They have thumbnails of different album covers. They have a feature that even highlights different events that musicians are playing on, different tours. And because MySpace has adapted to their target market, to musicians, they're up to a couple million subscribers again. And it is because it is much more appealing to the music-oriented person, to musicians, they were able to find a market. And because they understood that market, they're players again. They're playing on the big field. They have millions of subscribers again. So, despite MySpace's defeat from Facebook or by Facebook, because MySpace looked at their audience and looked at the general audience of social media users, and they found a market that they understand, that they can reach, that they're speaking the same language of, as, they now are, I'm not going to say they're all the way back, but they're starting to gain some ground. I want to leave you with one more example. And then I want to talk about how to identify your target market. But think about a company that sells contact solution. If they don't understand who their target market is, and that target market consists of people who have eye problems and who wear contacts, if they don't understand who that target market is, what a target market is, why their target market is so important, then they are not going to succeed as a business. And when they start targeting their market, they need to be talking the same message as their customers. Now, I actually wear contacts, and I know that contact solution either makes your contacts bearable to put in your eye, or if you don't have contact solution, or it's not good solution, the contact actually stings when it's placed on the eye. So when a contact solution company is creating content, when they're trying to reach their target market, if they're not in tune with that market, they're not going to know why people truly buy their product. They're not going to know who it is that's buying their product. They're not going to know that I'm an individual who needs their product. So why is a target market important? Why is it important to understand who your audience is? It allows you to craft your message specifically towards them. It allows you to understand your business better, your market better. It allows you to determine whether or not you need to use the fishing pole method, very precise marketing, or whether you need to cast a wide net. It allows you to be more precise with your marketing efforts. It allows you to enjoy a lower cost, a better conversion rate, and overall more effective marketing. So that is what a target market is and why it's important. However, there's still the issue of identifying your target market. And you don't want to be like the guy in the picture throwing darts with a blindfold on. Instead, it would be advantageous to you to use data, to use hunches, to use interests, and to use personas. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, start with a hunch. If you know that you're selling guitar strings, then it's probably a safe bet to assume that you need to be targeting guitar players and musicians and people who need your guitar strings. That's a good foundation to start with. However, you need data to figure out who those people are. You need to know what musicians look like as far as a customer. Are they going to pay a lot of money? Are they going to pay often? Do they need a product that they only have to worry about once every 6 months? Or are they going to make the regular trip once a month? It's these kinds of questions that's going to help you as a business owner and as a marketer really resonate with your customers. Because if you're selling guitar strings to somebody who procrastinates and your specific brand of guitar strings require new strings to be purchased every month, then you're probably not going to do as well as a company that sells guitar strings that only need to be replaced once every 6 months. However, there's no way to know that unless you have data. You might find that guitar players who are professionals prefer to change their strings that often, whereas guitar players who are more casual, they don't mind doing it every 6 months. In fact, they don't want to do it that often. They just want to do it once, and they want to go every 6 months, and even that's a little bit of a stretch. So it's part hunch and part data. Now, the other two things that I mentioned of identifying your audience by interest and by persona, those are two techniques that you can use to really narrow down your audience. Those are very effective. Now, interest-based targeting is sort of a new phenomenon, and Facebook really pioneers this method. And in order to really go in depth with it, I'm actually going to create another video, a separate video, to explain it and to show you exactly how to do it. But just to summarize, you basically need to target people by what they like, by their interests, by what they enjoy. And when you can identify your target market based on that, you don't have to go into the age of people, into their gender, into different demographics or psychographics that explain it. You can simply do interest-based targeting. So persona, on the other hand, that is based on demographics and psychographics, and that is very powerful too. And there is something to be said for both of them. It really depends on what you're selling, who you're selling to, and your business model. However, because I want you to be the most prepared and the most knowledgeable on both of these techniques, I'm actually going to create two follow-up videos. One on interest-based targeting and one on persona-based targeting using demographics and psychographics. So, for now, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I hope that you've learned, and truly learned, what a target market is. You know, your potential customers, the group of people who you can sell to. I hope you've learned why a target market and understanding your target market is so important. So you can craft your message, you know your market, you can lower your costs, more effective marketing overall. And I hope I've given you some value as to different techniques of how to identify it. Whether it's, part hunch, whether it's part data, and then whether you want to use interest-based targeting versus persona-based targeting using demographics and psychographics. And again, there are going to be follow-up videos on interest and persona-based targeting.
Right, everybody. Hopefully this video has been very helpful to you, very informative, and has provided you with a ton of value. Just keep in mind that when you're creating your content, it's so helpful and so important to keep your target audience in mind. Especially when you're creating content, but in business in general, in your entrepreneurial path, if you're not providing value to a certain group of people, you can't be everything to everybody. And so if you try to do that, you will end up being nothing to no one, right? So that's not what we want. I want to see you be successful. I want to help you, and along with my partner, Dr. David Zemmels, who's my partner on this, we want to make sure that you are successful. We want to help you build your own content empire, right? And if you want more information and want to get more specific on how the pros do it, this has been a lot of theory, but I want to give you step-by-step specific detail. Then you can go ahead and click the link below. That's going to be in the description, and I will see you there. Now, the next video is going to be video 5 of the training series. That's going to help you in addition to the resource down below. So have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.